It's been 2 months since I last posted, so I decided I should finally update any of you who cared to read. I am going to try to recount what has happened since last time, but some of the details are hazy. But I believe I've been able to recount the events accurately. Steve died in a car accident. Well, that's the official story, and I had no way to prove otherwise. I had considered turning in the tape as evidence to the police, but upon re-examining it, I was met with the grim reality that it was blank. Whatever I saw that day was not displayed on that tape. Of course, in hindsight, the tape appeared to be displaying footage as it happened, like some sort of analog live stream. I immediately packed up the necessities, got a hotel room in the neighboring town. I wasn't quite ready to quit my job, so I stayed there while trying to figure out what I could do about the situation I found myself in. While I had time to think, I decided to break down the facts. I had found the first tape in a mysterious bunker that Steve claimed he hadn't entered for years. It had displayed footage from a non-existent camera. Steve didn't want to talk about it, so he clearly knew something. The second tape was delivered directly to my mailbox. When I finally decided to watch the tape, it depicted Steve's final moments in real time. I hadn't really had time to process the death of my best friend. I honestly am not sure if I have been able to even now. But the one thing I knew was that I needed to figure out what these things were, and if so, how to stop them. And that's when it hit me. If I wanted answers, then I would have to go back to Steve's house. I would have to go back to the bunker. I made the trip out to his property. I got in pretty easily because I remembered his bad habit of leaving the back door unlocked. I entered the house to find it fairly well kept, and nothing initially seemed out of the ordinary. The one strange detail was the VHS player hooked up to his television in the living room, but given the circumstances, this wasn't surprising. I couldn't shake the sense of something's eyes on me, but maybe it was just paranoia. Could you blame me, though, after what had happened so far? After searching almost the entire house, I finally got to his room. I put my hacking skills to the test by guessing the password to his computer. The last thing that was left open was my first post. I knew something had to have spurred his sudden change of tone that day. I wonder if I had never posted, would he still be alive? I then turned to a journal he had left on his computer desk. From its contents, it seemed to be a pretty typical diary. But as the entries went on, things progressively got more strange. He wrote about strange dreams, some of the pages even having his own sketches depicting shadowy figures with prominent hollow eyes, drawings of beings without form, and ramblings without coherent meaning. Suddenly, I heard a creaking, which I discerned to be the sound of the back door being opened from the living room. I quickly closed the book and rushed out to the room. The door was still open, wind howling. At the foot of the door was, unsurprisingly, a VHS tape. I walked over to it cautiously, closing the door and locking it. I picked up the tape and read what was written on it. Those things we fear. Those things you fear. Those things I fear. Those things we fear, I said aloud to myself, trying to figure out what the correlation was. What did it mean? The more information I discovered, the less any of it made sense. I held the tape, contemplating my next move. I noticed the weather outside, progressing into a windy storm. The scene was set, and it seemed like my fate was imminent. After a deep breath, I put the tape into the VHS player. A moment of static, then the tape began with what appeared to be an analog television. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be the television from the bunker. The camera then moved as if standing up. Similar to the tape from the last entry, the point of view shown in this tape appeared to be that of someone or something. It climbed out of the bunker and proceeded to move throughout the forest. Then it started moving down the trail, and I realized all too late what was happening. Whatever it was heading towards Steve's house. It was heading directly towards me. I looked around in a panic, taking note that the storm outside had escalated to a level of intensity that was bordering on causing damage to the house. On the tape, the entity was traversing through the forest at insane speeds to the point it appeared to be gliding across the forest floor, appearing like a long tracking shot. Before I knew it, the house was in its sights. At the last second, I ducked behind the couch as the glass door was shattered. I stayed crouched behind the couch, holding my breath. I peeked over to get a glimpse at the entity. I expected to see some sort of monstrosity or demonic beast standing in the very living room. However, what I saw was far more confusing. There was nothing there. I looked at the television. It was still showing that thing's point of view, yet there was nothing visible to the naked eye. I realized that although I couldn't see it, my only advantage was that I could see what it was seeing through the television. Luckily, it hadn't spotted me yet. I slowly crawled around the couch, mirroring it so my location wouldn't be detected. Finally, I managed to get to the VCR. I clicked eject. As the tape began to eject, the last image I saw was from the monster's POV snapping towards me. I clenched the VHS tightly and leapt towards the now shattered doors, unsure if this thing could harm me while the tape wasn't playing. I got my answer as I heard the destruction of the television behind me, as if something had leapt towards it. In the greatest burst of speed in my entire life, I made my way outside and battled through the storm towards my vehicle. I peeled out of his property, taking note in my rearview mirror as a section of the fence collapsed. The monster was catching up to my truck, the only evidence of its existence being the mailboxes and fence posts that were laid out in its path of destruction. I booked it as fast as I could, finally making a highway and seemingly losing the entity. I drove for hours, until finally settling on a small town I hadn't heard of in a neighboring state. I have been in a hotel since then, unsure of where the creature is. If I truly lost it, then I can't imagine it would find me this far out. But maybe, if I put in the tape again, I will be able to see its whereabouts. Something tells me, though, that's what it wants. I have no idea what to do at this point. I'm running out of savings, and my will is growing weaker by the day. I don't know what to do. I've also been getting nightmares. I've been seeing them, those things that shouldn't be seen. We wish to know the things we shouldn't, and our curiosity cannot be quenched. Maybe some things don't need to be known, those things that we can't comprehend, those things we fear.